together as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. The day. Capital D.
Welcome back to Two Guys in the Bible.
Oh, we're live.
We're live. We're on the air.
Here we are.
Here we are. Hope you're doing well wherever you are. And good morning.
We have no idea what we're
They
doing.
may not be watching it in the morning. They may watch it in the evening.
No one's watching right now, and the only reason why you're up this early to do this is because I have to go to work.
Yes.
So we'd probably do it at a different time if schedules allowed.
Anywho, here we are. Another week has come and gone. The coronavirus is
Still around.
Still around. People are still under shelter-in-place orders. Churches still aren't meeting in a normal fashion, which is why we Cody went to this little passage here in Hebrews 10. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and read that again for the folks.
Yeah, Hebrews 10, 24 and 25, and let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near.
So how do we, in this day and age, how do we keep that, how do we do what the author of Hebrews is telling us to do, to not forsake the gathering of the saints, the gathering together, when we're told we can't?
Well, I think first we need to recognize that Paul, the writer of Hebrews, it's just my opinion. Why would he not write Hebrews? Anyway, the writer of Hebrews is dealing with a group of people that had a habit of doing this. I think obviously most churches don't like the idea of not being able to meet.
Yeah.
Some churches, I guess, probably do. I mean, they probably think, well, this is great. We can. And some people are all in love with, I can go to church in my pajamas and sit on my couch, and this is wonderful. But the people who are serious-minded and love the church and love fellowship and love being with one another and being in the house of God and worshiping, I think most of them want to meet. And I think that they've sought to submit to the authorities, listen to them, try to practice some sort of love for people by not wanting to give a disease to someone that could possibly, kill them. So they haven't met. So they've done creative things like what? Drive-through church, which is essentially parking in the parking lot in your vehicle and someone, doing that. Live streaming, those things. And so I think you do those things for a time. How long is the question I've been asking myself. I mean, how long do we...
How long will this keep going on?
For some of them some people think it's going to go on for 3 years.
Yeah, and this is the part where we've talked about a lot. When does it become unjust? When does it become just ridiculous? So I think within the next few days, maybe week or so, some of these restrictions are going to be loosened, especially in some states, like here probably. You already see in some states they're already being loosed. And so coming back to church, being able to gather again, I think is within sight.
For some.
Now.
Because it'll be smaller to begin with.
Right.
So someone like our church can fully meet. Your church is going to have to probably divide things up, make them smaller to meet those requirements. But
yeah, and so let's talk about, so how can we come back when they do release some of these restrictions? How can we come back and still care for our people and do the things we need to be doing without hindering true worship of God, fellowship,
Yeah.
study. So
I think we need to do everything that we can to live above reproach, to not give those outside the kingdom of God any reason to kind of look at us and say, all you care about is people dying because all you care about is having your worship, which some of them are going to say that regardless.
right.
But let's give every opportunity for them to not be able to poke holes and point at certain things. So I think practically speaking, if you have the capability, spread things out. Spread people out. Our case, all of us can meet in this one building. We'll just spread everything out. Instead of everyone meeting on that one side over there, we'll split that up and put some over here and space people out. We won't have our children's things where the kids are, and we'll come and we'll do that. We probably won't have meals at the end of services like we try to have. I would probably suggest in a church that's larger, some people that would be there to give some hand sanitizer when people come in, just to serve them. Have a mask available for people who are like, hey, that's a good idea, I didn't bring one here, and you give them a mask. And then I think, like you said, if you split your services up, you need to go ahead and clean it.
Yeah.
Just do things that are probably over the top, but
doing our part.
Yeah, we're doing our part to say we're which in my estimation should have been done to begin with. Personally,
You should have been handing out masks and squirting hand
No.
sanitizer in people's hands.
well, maybe. The whole mask thing is weird to us because we just never do it. The country's all over the place wear
I
masks
know.
all the time. But we should have the government should have went to the people and said, here's what we're trying to do. How can you function still and keep these things and then do these things? Because most people in America are responsible. Like, most people in America are not the teenagers from college that are on the beach of Florida. That's not who most of America is. Most of them want their business to run. Most of them want to be able to go and do and work and worship and things like that. So just being cautious and being safe.
Yep.
when you
That's
get back.
that's one of the things we plan on doing is we are going to have 2 morning services instead of 1. We're going to clean thoroughly between the 2 services. So we're not having Sunday school where everybody's off in these different little rooms and close together, at least for the time being, We're like I said, we're going to split to 2 services, and after each service, we're going to clean everything, the whole front, the sanctuary, and the whole front of the building, bathrooms, door handles, and all that kind of stuff. Wednesday nights and Sunday nights will still be live streamed for the most part until this thing seems like it really is just kind of petering out and going away.
So some would argue that the church should have never stopped meeting.
Yes, there's a lot of people that would argue that.
Some of them are radical in the sense of, we're not afraid of the virus. God's bigger than the virus. He's not going to let us die from the virus.
So you're talking,
which is not the route. That's not. But I mean, the people that are very sober-minded and said, the government has no authority to come and speak to the church and tell them not to meet. And they also add to their argument, why is a Lowe's essential and our church is not? Why is a Walmart essential and the church is not?
those are good points. The problem is it's not, the government is not telling us we can't meet. because of what we believe.
Right.
They're not telling us we can't meet out of a way of persecuting it. Now, are there some governors that are eating this up and loving it?
Sure.
Sure. We can't help that. But as a whole, the church is not being persecuted.
Right. Obviously. Yeah.
It is wise for us to, man.
And there are some, as you said, there are some people that are taking advantage. And there are some churches that I would say are trying to abide by the rules and are being somewhat persecuted and pointed out.
Yeah,
It's
there's some
just small
in
examples.
Kentucky and
Right.
Mississippi that we talked about. They're just having drive-in church. They're all separated. They're far apart. They're staying in their cars, and you still have people showing up writing tickets and
Yeah.
making them stay home for 14 days.
Right.
You know, that's just silly.
Right.
That's just guys being totalitarians. That's
Right.
all that is. You know, you got the governor of Michigan saying you can't even leave your house. Even if you have a country house or a lake house, because there's a lot of lake houses in Michigan, you can't go to that.
You got the city of Los Angeles or wherever Venice Beach is filling in skate parks with sand.
Yeah.
My wife asked me a great question. Who's going to get that out of there? I'm like, that's them. They're going to.
That's just silly.
It is.
That's just overreach. It's totalitarianism. It's just wanting more control. That's not what we're talking. That's obviously wrong.
Yeah.
But to the person that is well-intentioned, saying, well, churches should be meeting this whole time.
They're essential. They're as essential as food.
I agree. Let's praise God, though, that most of us still have the ability to at least have some kind of fellowship together.
Mm-hmm.
We can watch online together, and you can interact there. We can meet in parking lots.
Mm-hmm.
We can...
we meet in smaller.
Yeah, there's Zoom calls. There's all kinds of stuff.
Our church is small enough that the men and women's Bible studies split up, and those who feel comfortable can come.
Yeah,
and be together.
there's still things you can do.
Right.
But if you get a bad attitude and say, "Well, we can't have church, whatever. I'm just going to sit at the house," well, then, you know.
And another exhortation should be: you can't get comfortable with this type. Like, don't think, "Oh man, I really think this online church thing. I can just stay at home indefinitely."
No, if you are not eager, if you're not anticipating the day when we all get to come back together with your church or whatever, you should probably be worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
Because believers want to be around other believers.
We do our service here.
Yeah.
Me, Seth, another brother, and another brother. And at first it was fine. Okay, we're just doing this. Well, this last week I was like, okay, this is terrible. Like,
right.
Singing.
Preaching to an empty room.
Yeah, singing to yourself. Because we have to remember, the Bible clearly teaches that we are to sing to the Lord, but we're also singing to one another. Right? There's an encouragement going on as we're singing. And you go, there's no one in here.
Yeah.
You know, there's no fellowship. There's no... anyways, there is something unique that happens when the saints gather. And we should be anticipating that return. And I would agree that the church is as essential, because what we've proven in some cases, not intentionally, not because we're in sin, but what we've said is the body's more important than the soul. And eventually we're going to have to say the soul is as important as the body, and more important because it's eternal.
Right.
Not that God doesn't care about our body. That's why we practice social distancing, because we love our neighbor and don't want them to get sick.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of why I would give pushback to somebody that said we should have been gathering the whole time. Is, well, in our case, for example, we're not a giant church, but we're not small. And a lot of our folks are elderly. it would not have been wise for us to just ignore all this and just keep meeting. Even though it's not bad in our area, there's a handful.
What do you mean it's not bad? We have 15
We have
cases.
15 cases in our whole big
County.
giant. We have a big county too.
It's pretty spread out.
So anyway, it still wouldn't have been wise for us to meet. That'd have been putting our people in danger. You know, if I had a church of 20, you know, millennials, whatever, you know, maybe we could figure out something different there. But anyway.
So what should the church be doing?
The church, okay, here's what, I'm kind of cheating because I've talked about this with the other pastors of our church yesterday. It's, let's go ahead and start preparing our people for when we do come back, because it's coming, Lord willing, I think it is. And the way we can do that is, let's go ahead and be telling them, like I said, when we first come back, there'll be no Sunday school because we don't want people in close quarters. We're going to have to clean everything as soon as everything's over. So that's just a lot of chaos going on. So basically the back half of our church is going to be off limits because that's where all the Sunday school classes are. So we have our auditorium and we have the front foyer with bathrooms. That's where people can go. So we need to set the proper expectations of, hey, you know, let's praise God we can come back. We're not back, we're just back, right? We are going to be asking for volunteers after each service, just a handful, 5 or 6 volunteers to stay and help us wipe down everything, clean before we go home or before the next service begins. We are, like I said, Wednesday nights and Sunday nights we're still going to be live streamed because that's just, there are a few reasons for that. Wednesday nights, we have 2 Sundays morning services already that we're cleaning after, and then a Sunday, if we did a Sunday evening cleanup after that, it's a lot of cleaning supplies just you know going, a lot of fumes as well. And Wednesday nights, if we were to open up Wednesday nights, we have other programs that are going on. We have a children's thing on Wednesday night. We have a youth deal on Wednesday night. So we don't want to open up that box and just have a church filled with people all over the place again right now. So I think that's what churches should, obviously praying, seeking wisdom and discernment from God that only He can give. And just be understanding. You know, your pastors may be doing something wrong, but they're not doing it wrong on purpose. I don't think. They're trying to love you and serve you and come together the best way we know how to do, best way we can, without putting each other in harm's way. And like you said, little things like have hand sanitizer all over the place. And we do. Not because we've just had it forever. We've always had hand sanitizer all over the place. You know, wear a mask. I would encourage people to wear a mask. Kind of hard to sing if you wear a mask, but you can do it. You know, just the little things. Setting proper expectations and being clean and having good hygiene is really what churches should be doing.
Yeah.
What are you going to be doing?
Hugging everybody. I'm just kidding.
We have some front ladies in our church that are just absolute huggers, man. It's hard for them.
Most of the folks in my church aren't big huggers, which is fine.
I'm not either.
So they're handshakers. Those guys are handshakers and stuff. But so yeah, I think on the physical end, wisdom, cleanliness, love your neighbor, be smart, you know, all those things. If you have any sort of things that you even might think are symptoms of any sickness, that's what's always amazing to me is the warning that people have to give to people, well, if you have these symptoms, stay home. That's just what you should be doing all the time.
I think some people think that if they're just not flat out
Dying.
so when you're just kind of feel bad, or when you're super sick, I think people falsely think that unless they're super sick, they need to be in church. Because, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's
I
kind of
get
like
you.
the guys, like, some guys will show up to work.
Yeah,
because they're hard workers for one. They're usually guys of good character. And unless they're stuck in, they're going to be there. You know, like, no, brother, I appreciate your work ethic and all that, and your desire to stay home. But same thing with church. There's some people that just, man, every time the door's open, and I praise God for people like that. But if you're sick, stay home. That's the best thing to do. I think that's the most God-honoring thing you can do.
you're not going to get anybody else sick.
Yeah, stay home.
So I think on the physical end, on the body end, yes. On the soul end of this, I think we should consider many things coming back. I think that we should be considering, in a spiritual sense, what is important, because this is a perfect time to say what's important to the worship service, right? Because you're at an opportunity where you say some of this stuff is not that important, right? Some of the things that we're doing in our meeting together is not all that important. It's not really a priority that God has given. So, right, we can look and say, man, we just don't need to concern ourselves with that. That's just an added distraction, an added thing that doesn't need to be there. And then I think just overall, have you sought the Lord has your attitude been one of complaining, annoyed, frustrated, irritated, and just wanting this to be over so that you can go back to normal? I would admit that there's times where I'll call you and I'm all sorts of just like, I'm about ready to go take my American flag and drive down to Austin and give them a piece of my patriotic mind, or something. And I go, okay, now hold on.
And we just opened Whataburger.
Yeah, I
just want to go in there and sit down.
Right. And there's an attitude of, as Americans, we're free and we're this and I don't want that. But if that's been an attitude that's been consistent the whole time, and it's not been one of seeking God, repenting of sin, evaluating priorities, seeking to say, as Brother Rudy's been saying, that God, however you put it, by first cause or fifth cause, is doing something to condemn the wicked and correct the church.
Yeah.
And so, have you been spiritually trying to be healthy? I think about a lot of people right now are taking vitamins for their bodies, and they're doing things they've never done before for their immune system, and they're doing this, and they're concerned, and what's on the media? Test, vaccine, medicine to take care of the body. And so I would just want us to have the same concern, and more so for our soul. So if you're someone that's just over this, which I'm over it, we're all over it.
Yeah, I'm getting frustrated that we're sitting here talking about it. But yeah.
But why are we irritated? Why, Paul, the book of Philippians is a phenomenal book when you understand the context of where the Apostle Paul is at and all this stuff. And at the end of the book, he talks about his contentment that he's learned. So are you learning to be content in this time? Have you learned contentment? I had an older lady, I meant older, not old. It's kind of offensive, but older lady talking, and she made a great point. If we come out of this and nothing's changed about us, about anything, then we didn't learn anything.
Right.
You take practical things like maybe the U.S. should learn that all of our medical supplies shouldn't be made in China. That might be a good thing.
Might be.
Maybe we should have a stockpile of ventilators. Probably a good idea.
We do now.
We got it, right? So
Unless they throw them all away.
Sell them to some other country.
Yeah.
Or what? Who knows what we'll do?
Yeah.
But I think as Christians, have we learned? And I think the important thing is, have we learned contentment? Have you learned? This would be pastoral. Have you learned to walk with Christ without the church? Now, that sounds like a contradiction. But some people's walk with God is only church. Only.
Yeah.
Period. I walk with God because I go to Wednesday, Sunday, Bible studies, singing, preaching. And we need all of that. And we need to continue to do all that. But if you learn to walk with God without that. So as Paul learned in his circumstances, have we learned in our circumstances to rejoice in the Lord, to delight in God? So in the soul end, is your soul healthier without all the distractions? That'd be a good question. You're seeking to have your body healthy. Is your soul healthy after all of this? And I've been encouraged to hear parents that have said, kind of like that there wasn't something to do every single night.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, why do we think that there had, like,
There
we assume that because it's there we have to be involved.
Yeah.
And now we're learning that no, we don't, and we can. And you and I are homeschool people, so we're just laughing like everyone's like,
Yeah,
all of a sudden they're like, I could homeschool. Like, yeah, we've been trying to tell you this for.
Not only but you should.
Yeah, right. So I hope that this will be a great learning for the church and its people, and there'll be great repentance and a turning, because you can't. I've seen more activity on the abortion end on social media, throwing numbers out there, talking about this. And so maybe there'll be something.
A lot of Planned Parenthoods have shut down.
Yeah,
over
great.
5,000.
Maybe a church can buy the building and use it for good and redeem it. After you pray over it and anoint it with oil or something, I don't know. Do something like cleanse it. But yeah, I hope that that's the case. I don't want us to just go back to church. Bodies are healthy.
I don't want church to go back to the normal that it was.
Sure.
So come back hungrier, seeking to be closer to God, closer to one another, doing the things that we should be doing, getting rid of the things that we shouldn't have been doing at all. What I do want to get back to normal, though, is Whataburger. Just unlock the door.
Typically after this thing that we do, we usually go to Whataburger.
Yeah.
We see the old guys. I mean, what are the old guys doing right now?
Oh, they're probably bored to death.
Man, if they don't have their breakfast meeting.
Yeah.
That would be devastating.
Yeah.
If the one social contact they have is gone.
Yeah.
They're probably, it's a terrible thing.
But anyway, we're just being silly, but we do like Whataburger.
And I would say this last thing that we should note that I think people need to see and be warned about. Ready? No, this is not fun. I think that we need to recognize for the future how easy it was for the church to be set to the side by the government. Not because they did it because they were persecuting us, okay? But the church bowed so quickly to the authorities in this, and probably rightfully so in this context.
In this instant, yeah.
In this instance. But do you see how easy it was?
Yep.
For the government's hand to come down on the church and the church to fold up and be done?
Yeah, part of me wants to believe that if they were to try that again in an obviously unjust way, that the church would not just fold like that. Because it's God's church, it's not ours.
Sure.
He's going to build his church. The gates of hell will not prevail.
Sure.
I don't think that if the government's trying to do this in a way that is persecution, I think the church would stand firm. The solid churches would stand firm.
Mm-hmm.
That may be me being overly optimistic, a little naive. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I don't.
I don't know.
Virus, plague, okay.
It is.
We're tired of hearing you. Sorry, you're going to hear us even more now.
Yeah, but see, I don't think they're going to come at us like that.
Right.
I don't think
they'll find creative ways.
Yes, and then the church will say, oh, okay.
Oh, it should be interesting. Let's see if they try to do it again.
So, I just want us to be careful to not so easily be spiritual and submissive and think that that's the way to go all the time.
Yeah, you can over literalize Romans 13.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever the government says, I have to obey. Well, that's not the case.
Right.
So yeah, that's a good.
Just a warning to see. I just think that it was very easy for the church to be shut down.
It was also very easy for the government to come to small businesses and say, hey, lock your doors. We'll give you a little kickback, we promise. But and most of them haven't got that kickback.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It was easy across the board.
Yeah.
Church, people. But I think it shows a one good thing. Americans they want this thing they want to survive. They want the country to do well. They want their fellow citizens to do well. So they're responsible and they listen. But in this case, it was very easy for them to come to small businesses, for them to come to churches, and then the American people just bow the knee quickly.
Yeah, I got a feeling if this stuff doesn't change soon, that knee will no longer be bowed. People will be like, okay, I'm going back to living my life.
I know we're going just a little bit long, but can you give me one more minute?
No.
Okay.
Okay, go.
I have noticed this. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people they're losing their businesses. They're shutting down. They're this and this. One thing about the generation before and the generations before that, when something happened like this and they were very creative and industrial, and they went and found something else. Right? They just said, okay, I can't do this. I'm going to go do this over here. I don't know that I see that enough now. It's like, well, I can't do this, so now I'm just going to stay home until I can do this. Now, some of that is they had the expectation it was going to be short-lived, and so on and so forth, and some people can't just jump from one career to the next career, but you can start doing something. If you can't work at your small businesses, there's a bunch of businesses that are thriving right now. Well, stores might need some stockers. I mean, you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
But there's been some.
Sometimes we got to set aside our pride
and say, I gotta
for a season.
Yes,
I need to do this. Yeah, that's a good point.
So anyway, and Christians should be the ones leading out in that and being the hard workers that go and make those humble decisions. So
I'm the most humble guy I know.
So I have a badge.
I have a badge that tells me everyone how humble I am.
Yeah. That's what I wear around in church.
Funny. Well, all right. Where do we go? 50 minutes?
Just 34.
34?
It's pretty good.
That's not bad.
It's pretty good.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching again. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Mm-hmm. Leave a comment on how wrong we are.
Yeah.
Or how right we are. Or whatever.
Or that you just want us to not be on Facebook and YouTube anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We haven't reached that many viewers yet.
But maybe some of our viewers.
The people that do watch is because they want to see.
They want to watch,
Yeah, we haven't reached So many there. We haven't got any dislikes yet, I don't think.
All right.
But yeah, go ahead and subscribe, and because that helps the channel grow. It helps YouTube recommend our channel to other people just searching for things. And anyway, appreciate you guys watching.
Yep.
Have a good